Lee Min-ho learns how to cook Song Hye Kyo's favorite meal after she mentions missing it once. Sometimes, the smallest conversations create the biggest memories. That was exactly what happened between Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo one rainy evening in Seoul. Neither of them knew it at the time, but a simple comment would soon become one of the sweetest moments of their relationship. The two were having dinner together after weeks of exhausting schedules. The conversation flowed naturally from work to childhood memories. Then Song Hye Kyo smiled softly and said something almost absent-mindedly. "I really miss my favorite homemade meal." Lee Min-ho looked up. "What meal?" She described it briefly. A dish that reminded her of comfort, family, and simpler days. Then she laughed and waved it off. It's probably impossible to find one that tastes the same. The conversation moved on, at least for her, but Lee Min-ho remembered every word. Over the next several days, he quietly began researching the recipe. He watched cooking videos, called people for advice, even practiced late at night after filming. The first attempt was terrible. The second wasn't much better. The third was edible, barely, but he refused to give up. Finally, after nearly 2 weeks of trial and error, he felt ready. One evening, he invited Song Hye Kyo over for dinner. She arrived expecting takeout or a restaurant reservation. Instead, she found candles, a neatly prepared table, and a nervous-looking Lee Min-ho standing in the kitchen. "You cooked?" she asked in disbelief. He nodded. "Maybe?" The smell instantly caught her attention. Then her eyes widened, because sitting on the table was the exact meal she had mentioned weeks earlier. For a moment, she simply stared at it. "You remembered?" Lee Min-ho smiled shyly. "You sounded happy when you talked about it." Song Hye Kyo sat down and took a bite. The room became completely silent. Not because the food was perfect. It wasn't. But somehow, that didn't matter. Because every bite carried effort, patience, and care. A few tears formed in her eyes. "You learned this just because I mentioned missing it?" He shrugged lightly. "You were worth the trouble." The answer made her laugh through her tears. And in that moment, she realized something beautiful. Real love isn't always about expensive gifts or dramatic surprises. Sometimes, it's someone remembering a passing comment and spending weeks learning a new skill just to bring a little happiness back into your life. Subscribe to Kdrama Vibe Plus for more hidden stories, shocking twists, and cinematic love tales you won't find anywhere else.